Tyre Recycling podcast. Here we are with our first episode in 2022. It's a belated Happy New Year from me. And also we have our editor, Ewan Scott, who is here with us once again to take us through the podcast in 2022. Ewan, I know it's late, but happy New Year. And could you give us an insight into what we have in store in the first episode of our podcast series for this year?
Yeah, and a happy belated New Year to everybody. This first podcast of the year is an interview with Vianney Vales, the Chief Executive Officer of Wastefront in the UK. So we're going to talk about what's happening in Sunderland and possibly where they go from there.
Brilliant. Well, obviously, we've obviously touched base with Wastefront a few times. We touched base with Henrik Selstrom in our review of the RCB call to action and what that meant. And also previously, we've talked to Henrik and Inga Berger. I think it was in episode 4 of the Tyre Recycling podcast, which I think we had the interview in 2020. What are you hoping to learn more about in this interview, considering the time we've had between those two interviews and the intervening updates we've seen published on the website?
I think we're going to be interested to hear what Vianney has to say about where the project in Sunderland is. It's had a lot of PR, a lot of good, positive PR, but it's not the first project to get a lot of PR, particularly in the northeast of England. It's the first large-scale project that has got as far as getting planning permission. So it'd be interesting to hear what he has to say about the next steps in bringing that plant to life.
Fantastic. Well, I'll stop our interlude right there and we'll jump straight into the interview with Vianney Vales, the CEO of Wastefront.
Hi, welcome to Tyre and Rubber Recycling Podcast. Today we've got Vianney Vales, Chief Executive Officer of Wastefront in the UK. So Vianney, can we start off with you giving us a little bit of a background to Wastefront?
Sure. Good afternoon, Ewan. Wastefront basically is a company that aims at solving the end-of-life tires problem with a sustainable and scalable solution. The company was born in Norway 2 years ago, and is deploying his first plant in the UK. The UK being a very good location to start addressing this problem, as the problem of end-of-life tires in the UK is pretty strong, if you want.
Okay. What is the current state of play with the Wastefront plant in Sunderland?
So, as you mentioned, the plant that we intend to build is in Sunderland, and we are right now finalizing what we call the blueprint, which is the final design stage of the plant. We have teamed up with one of the largest EPC, engineering, procurement and construction companies in the world, Technip Energy. They bring a lot of credibility to the project. And even more importantly, we just obtained the planning approval for our plant, meaning, permit to build, basically. And that shows how the project has been well welcomed, if you want, by the community, the city council, and everybody who was involved in this decision for the planning being approved. So with this blueprint, which is the design of the plant being ready and the planning permit to build being ready, we intend to start construction in the next 6 months.
Okay, so the physical construction of the buildings is not a technical issue. It's been done many times, but the plant and equipment, Wastefront is, you're not involved in pyrolysis, tire pyrolysis in any other market. So where has the experience come from to go into this large scale production from scratch?
So we have been involved in tire pyrolysis in my previous job. I was heading a company doing project developments for different companies, including on tire pyrolysis and plastic pyrolysis. And some members of the team in Wastefront also have been involved in this. The second point I'd like to make is the pyrolysis that we are using is already in commercial operation in certain countries. So we are not reinventing that wheel. What we are doing is integrating these pyrolysis with the back end of the plant and the preparation of the plant in order to ensure that our products are well accepted in the UK market.
Okay, so you're bringing experience from you're bringing past experience from your staff members, your team members. You're using equipment that has already been tried and tested in other markets. So when would you expect to start production at Sunderland?
Yeah. So it normally takes 2 years to do things well before, between the moment you start construction and the moment you're really in operation. Startup phases are always, moments that take a little bit more time than everybody would like. So we're doing things very, very carefully and very much by the book and sequentially. We took our time in the development of the project to ensure that we were not running before we walked, and the result is that we got the planning application, and we'll do the same during construction and startup. We're going to take our time, follow all the recommendations from Technip, and then we'll start up and be in operation in 2 years. In 2 years after construction.
Okay, this is all good news, because you've already got further with a large-scale plant than anybody else in the UK has done. You have an offtake agreement with Vitol for the oil. What are you going to do with the pyrolysis black?
Yeah, so the agreement with Vitol, who's the largest independent oil trader in the world, was critical for us to get started, because the oil from the pyrolysis of tires has specific features. It's very important to understand what you can do and cannot do with it. And with their relationship with refineries, they were the perfect partner to take care of that part, which is a critical element of the equation. On what we call the recovered carbon black of the part of the tire, which is the virgin carbon black that's initially in the tire and that is unaltered by the pyrolysis system and is therefore fully recycled. This recovered carbon black has a lot of possible destination. Its marketability is improving by the day. Of course, the natural off-takers are tires manufacturers themselves. And we were very pleased that the two major tire manufacturers, Bridgestone and Michelin, in November of last year, declared, in front of everyone, had a common communication, a call for action to increase the recycling of carbon black into their tires formulation. That for us was the proof that the things were changing in terms of acceptability of this recovered carbon black. So it's a very technical product, recovered carbon black. It's a mix of virgin carbon black. So the carbon black helps with a lot of elements in a tire, but you have a different carbon black for the tread and for the inner liner, etc. And when you pyrolyze a tire, all these carbon black are blended and then they're separated in a recovered carbon black, which is a mix of the original carbon black. So it gets a little bit technical, but ultimately all the tests that we've made with tires manufacturers proved extremely positive. Recovered carbon black actually has properties that are better than virgin carbon black in certain aspects. So it's just a question of, you know, the test being done in cooperation with your customer before you can get a certification. But there are precedents already of, you know, pioneers, if you want, of this business at a very small scale, but that kind of paved the way for the acceptance of the recovered carbon black. So technically, the tires manufacturers were not far already from accepting. I think what has changed now is the ESG dimension, you know, the environmental dimension that really pushes tires manufacturers to you know, be customers, natural customers for this RCB. So we're talking with all of them, and we'll, you know, celebrate contracts with them when the time comes. But we are very, very optimistic about finding multiple agreements on that front.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, the Bridgestone Michelin announcement on looking into this framework for marketing recovered carbon black has been very positive. Have you secured the feedstock for the UK?
Yes, we have secured the feedstock. We've been in conversation with multiple players in the supply chain of tires in the UK. We're going to be a major user of these end-of-life tires. We are extremely appealing for the actors of this supply chain because, you know, although the EPR is not implemented in the UK at the extended producer responsibility, the truth is more and more producers, if you want, of end-of-life tires feel the need to endorse or accept responsibility for the ultimate destination of their tires. So if you look at where tires go today, the main destination in cement kiln, where you have energy, mainly energy recovery, okay, which is, you know, it's the best solution today that combines scale with a reasonable footprint. So, you know, this is definitely better than landfilling and definitely better than exports that we don't really know, you know, what the destination of really. So I think incineration is you know, currently the best solution. But what we are doing, of course, is much more circular than incineration. We have an independent analysis of our alignment with the taxonomy objectives of the UK and Europe, meaning the green objectives. And the alignment is simply 100%, meaning all our products contribute positively to the green objectives of Europe. The reason is, if you look at what we're doing with the tire, we're transforming the rubber part into biofuels, which can also be bioplastic precursor. Why do I say bio? Because 40% to 45% of a rubber in a tire is of biogenic origin. Hence, the fuel you're producing is also, you know, qualifies as a biofuel. Then the carbon black is fully recycled into carbon black, and the metal is, of course, fully recycled into metal. So the alignment being 100%, it means that every actor in the supply chain of tires in the UK has an interest in favoring this final destination for their own tires. So we have had a very good reception of our solution from the actors of the supply chain in Britain, and we celebrated agreements with multiple of them, and we are now in the final stage of you know, firm supply agreement that's all encompassing, and that includes the participation of, you know, aggregators in the field with control of the quality of tires. So a full ecosystem that we are building together with those partners, and I can't reveal name for now, but very soon we will be able to do it. a full ecosystem that picks up the tires. I'm sure, once they are shredded, they go into this very circular solution that is our plant in Sunderland.
Will you be shredding tires at Sunderland, or will you be bringing in shred?
So we intend to bring pre-shredded material, but large cuts, and then we'll finalize the shredding in the plant, because to go into the pyrolysis reactor, you want ships size to be efficient. I mean, you could do it with larger shredded material, but it's less efficient. So we prefer to shred them down to the ship level.
So okay, you're going to be bringing in larger shred, pre-shred, and then you are going to find that your own process, the size that you or okay. Now the UK still export huge amount of tires to India, Pakistan, and you will be aware that the Indians are introducing an EPR scheme and tighter restrictions. And of course, when India introduces an EPR scheme, its priority is going to be recycling its own tires before any imported tires. We've seen the document. They're talking about any getting must be recycled, not pyrolysis. So that puts maybe 12 months, 18 months down the line, that puts the UK and other European countries in a rather difficult position, because they have to find large volume markets. Do you think that will help drive your supply chain?
It already is helping, of course. Yeah, the answer is yes, and it's already happening because people are anticipating what's going to happen, and that's why we have this, exceptional response from all the actors. There is no sustainable and large-scale solution other than what we're going to offer in Sunderland in 2 years' time. In the pipe, if you want. It will grow, the industry will grow, and we welcome that growth. But right now, we are the main sustainable and scalable solution. So yes, it is definitely helping, and it's a trend worldwide. What's happening in India will happen in Turkey, will happen in everywhere.
Okay, so one final question. At the Recovered Carbon Black conference, Bob Genovese from Delta commented that one of the issues for this in the future will be sticks. And he suggested that pyrolysis plants would be built close to tire plants. Now, you're building a plant in Sunderland. The UK isn't now a major tire manufacturer. So how does that impact on what you're doing? Do you agree with Genovese when he says that?
Sorry, Ewan, can you repeat what Bob said? Because you got cut at that time.
Bob Genovese suggested that future pyrolysis projects would likely be developed in close proximity, maybe even side by side with tire plants. How does that fit in with Wastefront in Sunderland?
Yes. So, I mean, first of all, I agree that you want to avoid transporting tires, long distance as much as possible. That's one of the goals, is to really address the problem where it's created, and not only because of the logistics aspect and the environmental aspects linked to transport, but also because it's the responsibility of the country who creates the problem to solve it. So that's one thing. The UK is not a large country. I mean, the maximum distance that we'll have for the Sunderland project is are not that long. Of course, in the US, it's a completely different story. this is the size of a continent. So you definitely, don't want to build a plant in Texas that would use tires from one of the landfills in Wyoming. But I think in Europe, if you are in the country where the pollution is generated, you're never that far in terms of transportation. Of course, you don't want to transport full tires because it's highly inefficient. So you will want to shred them or to bale them at the origin. That is absolutely certain. But then the transportation of bales and shredded tires is acceptable for a few some distance that are acceptable in the European countries, a few hundred kilometers at maximum, and I think that is acceptable. If you look at what that lorry can transport, it's 26 tons of shredded or bales material. That's very equivalent to any liquid or hydrocarbon that you would transport. So yes, I agree with Bob. You want to be as close as possible from the source, but ultimately you also want a scalable solution. So if you build 2 small plants, your environmental footprint will be worse than with a larger plant. So you have to balance that also.
Okay, I did say that one final question. I got one more. Sunderland is plant number 1. Will there be plant number 2, 3?
Well, so I mean, the plant number 2, there's a big race for plant number 2 between our partners. As you know, Vitol is a partner, Technip is a partner. We have other strategic partners and a lot of suggestions for plant number 2. We are right now analyzing plant number 2 in the UK, in the Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Antwerpen region, in the US, and in the Asia Pacific region. So we have 4 projects in the pipe, and we will decide in the coming 6 months how we prioritize them with our partners. I mean, the good thing with Technip on board, this large EPC endorsing the whole system, is of course it brings a lot of confidence to everyone. And the blueprint will be ready in May, meaning in May we can start develop project number 2. So we're going to have a nice problem to decide.
So there you have it, our interview with Vianney Vales, the Chief Executive Officer of Wastefront. Ewan, obviously that was a good catch up to see where Wastefront are with regards to the project in Sunderland. As we've alluded to before, there's been a lot of PR about this, and there will be a big impact, especially on the end of life tires that are produced each year in Britain. What do you think was the main point that the viewers and our listeners can take away from that interview with Vianney?
One of the things that we know, and is a positive point, is that Wastefront already has an offtake agreement with Vitol, one of the largest traders in oil in the world. So whatever oil, Tyre pyrolysis oil they produce, they have a market for. That's one half of the equation. Steel is never going to be an issue. So that leaves the question of the recovered carbon black. So it remains to be seen what will happen there, because producing large volumes of recovered carbon black needs a market. And as Peter Taylor previously pointed out in a podcast, the UK doesn't have a big tire market, so they may have to look for alternative outlets for that recovered carbon black, or ship it to Europe. But that incurs costs that other companies based in, for argument's sake, Pyram and Diligent or Boulder and Antwerp won't have. On the supply chain side, it's great news for the tire collectors in the UK, because Wastefront's going to be looking at 50,000, 60,000 tons of shred being delivered to the plant per annum. That's a substantial element of the UK market, and it helps create domestic recycling market. It helps take pressure off the industry exporting tire-derived fuel to unknown destinations. Let's put it that way. It also helps because if India introduces its EPR scheme as it plans to do, that market that we've long seen in India is going to dry up, and the UK tire collectors are going to have to find other markets for their tire collections at the end of life tires. It's one thing for the industry to look for alternative markets for tire-derived fuel, but ultimately we're going to have to recycle in the UK. I really do hope that Wastefront pull this off and show people that large-scale pyrolysis of tires can be done in the UK. I actually think it's wider than just tire pyrolysis. We have a huge polymer waste issue in the UK: plastics, films, and of course rubber and tires. And currently, we do not recycle as we should. We ship them out, and the acceptance of pyrolysis as a solution to disposal of tires that gives us energy, that gives us renewable materials, has to be the way ahead. But we need to overcome, as a waste industry, we need to overcome the public resistance to the concept of pyrolysis. We need to show that it's clean, it's tidy, it works. And on that basis, Wastefront has got an awful lot riding on it, because if it doesn't work, I'm sure it will, but if it doesn't, I think we can say pyrolysis in the UK is dead.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, a lot of people, not as you said, Wastefront have a lot riding on it, but it seems as though there are a lot of other suppliers, tire collectors and stuff, who will also be really hoping this comes off. And as you said, for the UK tire recycling industry, this would be a sizable portion of that yearly ELT production that is taken care of. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that over the course of this year and next year, when the proposed go live date of the plant in Sunderland is due to happen. So Ewan, putting today's podcast behind us, what do you have in store for some future episodes?
We interviewed Przemysław Zapralaski from the Polish Tire Recyclers Association. Very shortly, we'll be doing a podcast with Przemysław again, this time talking about the Recycle Group, one of the largest recyclers in Poland. So that will give us a different view on what is happening in one of the largest recyclers in Poland. And another one we have in the offing is with Andreas Peterson from Vitol, who used tire-derived aggregate as a grey water purifier and as a backfill for insulation and foundation work. So we've got a couple of interesting podcasts coming up down the line. Absolutely. Well, I'm sure all of our readers and listeners will be looking forward to that. Thanks for interviewing today with Vianney, Ewan, and we'll be back very shortly with all those podcast episodes. Thanks for watching, and please stay safe.